Welcome back to another episode of the Firebrand Podcast. I'm Maggie Ulmer, and I'm here with
David Watson.
Scott Kisker.
And it's been a little bit since we have managed to all be in the same room to record, but here we are. We're making it happen.
It's been a minute.
Been a minute.
A minute.
And that's what the young people say.
Yes.
I don't think that's what the young people say. I think that's what people in their 30s and 40s say now.
Well, they feel young to me.
Millennials, maybe.
So, it's been a while. We just haven't been able to get our schedules together. We've all been
busy
doing stuff.
I know.
For the Lord.
For the Lord. The Lord's work.
Yeah. So, Maggie, you just went to Slovakia.
I did. Spirit and Truth went to Slovakia with Bishop Mark Webb to do some equipping for the Slovakian Annual Conference of the Global Methodist Church. And it was awesome. It was so good. Gabby Kopas is the superintendent there. And she is shepherding a great group of pastors and a great group of churches. She's leading a church herself as well.
Yeah, I like her. I work with her on the Commission on Doctrine, Discipline, and Just Ministries.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she mentioned that actually. And anyway, it was just a tremendous experience. And of course, it's always interesting doing anything through translators.
Yeah.
But
did you guys go out in the streets?
No, there was no time.
That's a bummer.
I know. But we did, of course, we were practical in everything we did. So there was the practice of sharing testimony. There was active prayer. Emma Winchester and I led a session on the importance and practice of intercessory prayer in particular. And also, of course, listening in prayer. And then, of course, we don't go anywhere without talking about evangelism. So there was teaching on evangelism and discipleship. And our team got to pray over every pastor who was there. So that was just really powerful. And I don't know, these are people who are leading churches in unusual circumstances and, met some people who are planting. In some places there's, like in Croatia, there's one global Methodist church.
Yeah.
And I met the pastor who planted that church and is doing that. He's bivocational.
Okay.
Anyway, it was great.
Yeah.
Is that
Vatroslav. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Super
met
cool.
him.
Yeah. He's a cool dude.
Sounds like a great time. Are you super jet lagged?
Well, no, I'm not super jet lagged yet, but
What's the time difference there?
6 hours.
Okay.
So it's 6 hours later there than it is here.
Yeah.
And but I stayed up until 9:30 p.m. last night, and then I slept until 7:45 this morning.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
But I was delusional at 9:30 last night.
How could you tell?
Well,
Badoon.
funny you should ask. Well, I was in the middle of talking with Rob, and then I just stopped talking. Like I was mid-sentence, and I just stopped talking, and he said, yes. And I said, what? And he said, you didn't finish what you were saying.
It was kind of a Mitch McConnell moment.
Yeah, just totally I just was my brain was like, we're powering down now.
Been there.
Yeah. So he was like, all right, you should go to sleep.
Yeah. Glad y'all had a good time.
Yeah, it was awesome. We got to, the team, Spirit and Truth team, got to walk around Austria for one day. Vienna. Austria is only about an hour away from where we were in Slovakia. And it was really fascinating, moving, to sort of say, for instance, sit in a church that was founded in the 1100s and then sort of reflect on just the continued growth and expansion of the church today. It was good.
Are the majority of Christians there Catholic?
Oh, yeah.
Roman Catholic?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was, there was pretty heavy persecution by the Habsburgs for a very long time.
Yeah.
Until really the 20th century.
Yes. We went to the palace complex. We walked around that area, so it was fascinating.
That's why God cursed them with that chin.
No, I think that genetics and inbreeding had more to do with that, but
You have your explanation, I have mine. Agree to
Okay.
disagree.
Okay, there you have it.
anyway,
Cool.
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. What else would you like to talk about, Maggie?
I don't know, David, is anything new happening with you?
Well, a little bit. The announcement's been out for a while, but I have accepted the presidency of Asbury Theological Seminary beginning in early July. So my family
Congratulations.
and I... Thank you. And we will be moving to Wilmore in late May.
Man, Wilmore, you have no idea what's coming.
No, you don't. And it won't be anything you've ever experienced before.
Well, the tornado that we call Sean Watson is on his way to Wilmore. And
Exactly.
It's going to be great.
we'll notify the police in advance.
Wise life choice.
Yeah. Just in case he decides to wander off. So, yeah.
As he is wont to do.
There's a presidential house there, Rose Hill, and Harriet is having it fitted with all kinds of cameras and whatnot, so that we'll know if Sean leaves the house. So, yeah. So we're excited, and it's been. I've been at United for 19 and a half years.
Wow.
And so it's really hard to leave the people here. But I feel like it's where I need to go now, and I'm really excited to be working at Asbury and to have the opportunity to lead that kind of institution. So,
And what kind of institution is that?
I would say the leading institution of Wesleyan theological education in the world.
Okay. I think you would say that as the president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. What is there to say about this? I think that
We're
is
happy for
yeah,
you.
Thank you.
really awesome. Of course, sad to see your family leave the great city of Dayton, Ohio.
That's right.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we've enjoyed our time in Dayton a lot. We have a lot of really good friends here. So we will, and it's not that far away, but 2.5 hours or so if there's not traffic in Cincinnati, in the mythical world. In which
Yeah, I was
there's a
going to
moment
say,
without
oh,
and
what
that
days
is
is
when,
that
but-
when there's
yeah.
not traffic in
Yeah.
Cincinnati?
3:00 in the morning.
But it's a really great opportunity, and I've been getting to know some of the staff and faculty there, and they've been very supportive, very helpful as I'm kind of getting geared up to start in early July. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. Really honored to have that opportunity.
Well,
So what's your first thing you're going to do as president of Asbury Seminary?
what do they ask the President of the United States? First 100 days or something?
Yeah, you got your first 100
What's
days.
your first 100 days look like there, David Watson?
I'm gonna wander around and take pictures with people, make selfies.
Get to know people?
Mainly what I'm going to be doing in my first 100 days will just be getting to know the institution, kind of trying to figure out how things work, and what some of the institutional strengths are, what some of the institutional challenges are. I mean, I do have some sense of that already, but just to get a better understanding, look under the hood for a while, and so I'll really just be learning mostly in the first 100 days.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn. I mean, it's a big, complex institution, and so there'll be it's going to be a steep learning curve, but I'm looking forward to getting to know Asbury better, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be praying for you,
Thank
and Harriet and Sean and Luke and Sierra and all the peeps.
Yeah, thank you. Luke is going to be home, and he's going to move with us when we move. So
Yeah.
that'll help
What do you mean he's
Publisher.
going to be home? Oh, he'll be
He's
here
here.
at the time when
Yeah,
you move.
when you
Yeah,
move.
that's
He's
right.
still going to, he's not quitting med school though.
No, he's not quitting med school.
Okay.
Not even close.
He's going to be living in our basement in Rose Hill,
Oh my goodness.
playing video games.
No, that is not Luke Watson's MO. But no, he just will be off from med school, and then he tells me like after this he never gets another break again or something. I mean, it's
Ever.
like ever. Like
He's never going
in
on
the
vacation.
foreseeable future, Luke Watson will be unavailable.
Sounds like medical school.
Yeah.
Well, that's really exciting, and I don't know. It's like it seems to me that this particular topic, this conversational topic, is one of those ones where it's like you say the thing, and then there's like about a billion other things underneath that, because you've been here for a long
I've
time,
been here for a long time. Yeah.
and you know a lot of people know you, love you,
Yeah.
all that. So, but this is a good thing.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is too. It wasn't on my bingo card a couple of years ago, but God just opened the door. And so, and I prayed through the whole process. So did Harriet, and I just prayed, God, open the doors you want open, close the doors you want closed. And this door opened. And my other prayer was, when you open a door, give me the good sense to go through it. So, yeah, it's going to be good.
Amen. Well, there you go, people.
There you have it.
Not UTS Doc anymore.
No, I had to change my Twitter handle
You sure did.
to DF Watson 3. Can't be UTS Doc if I'm not at UTS.
Yeah.
So,
D.F. Watson.
by the way, moving like
terrible.
moving is terrible. But you know what's more terrible? Moving things off of your institutional Google account into another account.
Why is that so bad?
I don't know. I mean, because they have intentionally made it hard. It's like you've got to
Google's
go.
made it hard?
Yeah.
Oh.
And like moving my YouTube channel, I just gave up on that.
Which is also...
I just gave
Isn't
up.
YouTube Google as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's what...
I just gave
Yeah.
up.
What's hard... Oh, gosh. I totally understand this, actually. What's hard is because all of these things are part of the Google complex, is you have to change the root Google account and then get that change to transfer to all of the other changes,
Yeah, it's like
other outlets.
and then you have to go through 14 different security protocols on
Yeah.
your phone and in your email and your alternate email, and then back to your phone and receive this code and enter this code, and you entered the code wrong, and so you resend the code, and then it doesn't send, and the code is expired, and it's just like...
Let me just
it's
make this easier for you. Just download everything.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
This is what I've done.
Onto a hard drive.
External hard drive,
Yep.
create new accounts, shut down every old account, upload it all back.
Yeah. that's what
Or
I'm gonna
use
do.
a Google Drive, but
That's what I've been trying to do.
yeah.
But it's very time consuming.
It
and
is.
even getting my Google Docs from one account to another account. Like, I don't want to lose 20 years of research.
No.
And so
Do
getting...
you write on Google Docs?
Oh, yeah.
I always write on Google Docs.
Oh, well, I never do, so that's why.
Google
do
Docs is
you?
what most writers use.
Yeah,
Well,
because you never lose.
not
It's
this
always saved. It's always saved.
Until you try to move it to another...
No, that's so
Google
no.
account.
But
Yeah.
see,
Yeah, that's the problem.
here's
But
what I would do is not use the institutional drive. I always use my personal drive, and I just pay for the extra storage space.
That's what I should have done, but I didn't do that.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
But Sky actually uses a feather and an inkwell.
Inkwell?
Yeah.
You
And
know what? It works.
parchment,
It works.
writing on animal skin.
No, but seriously, do you?
Very, very, I mean,
So do you use Pages on Apple?
I don't know what that is, so no.
Oh, sweet Jesus!
He is sweet.
But I mean, like, do you use the Apple? Do you use Word? You use Microsoft Word?
I do.
Okay.
But if I had my druthers, I would use Word Perfect. That was the best.
What?
Yeah.
I forgot there was a WordPerfect.
Word Perfect
I know,
from like
everyone has.
1995?
But WordPerfect was amazing because you could actually go in and clean it up. Like in the code. Like ordinary people could do that.
Oh my gosh.
It didn't just like create ever expanding documents from every single thing you do. Like if you bold it and then unbold it in, I don't know, this is getting super nerdy, but if you bold it and unbold it in like Microsoft Word or in any Google Docs, there's like bold, unbold, bold, unbold, bold, unbold. Like which just makes the documents larger. So you need more storage space. But if you just clean that out, like you could do on WordPerfect.
You can clean it out, actually. There's a way.
You can't really. Trust me, I've tried.
Okay.
You're not exactly a tech wizard, though, Scott.
Well, I have experimented to try and make it happen.
Well, I don't know
It
what
is
kind of
not
random
as-
tangent this is in this podcast
This
episode.
may not make it to the final podcast.
You know what? If bolding and unbolding is using up too much hard drive space,
I mean,
you might
just
need
get
a
a new
new
computer.
You might be using a TRS-80,
Something.
a Commodore 64.
I just like Scott's over here like I miss DOS.
Yes, I miss tape drives.
Yes.
You remember word
tape drives.
processors?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and floppy disks. And
Okay, here's the last comment on this random tangent. There is a product out now called FreeWrite, which is essentially a word processor with a slightly larger screen, but it has, obviously, as word processors do, no access to the internet. It is simply a digital typewriter
I'm loving this thing.
that will save your stuff to an internal storage like drive or whatever. But people love it because they're like, oh, I'm just so not distracted. And I'm just like, is this what's happened? We've gone so far around.
So we're back to word processors.
Yeah, we're lapping ourselves. Pretty soon people will be like, have you heard of this thing called a legal pad and a pen?
I mean, I remember. I mean, I'm so old. How old are you?
So old.
That I actually went to college with one of those typewriters that had like this tiny little screen where the words would come up.
Yeah.
And then it would, you know.
Yeah, I had one of those.
You did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I only had one for 1 year and then I got a Mac.
Oh.
But you're like so much younger than I am. I'm sort
am.
of surprised.
I'm young and spry.
You're young and spry and
All right.
whatever
Sprightly.
else one says about that.
Yeah.
Sprightly. Well, so far we've talked about the fact that I was in Europe yesterday. You're the new president of Asbury, and Scott uses WordPerfect.
Would were it possible.
So now let's talk about some.
Oh, let's talk about, we have a big announcement to make.
Woohoo! You want to do that first?
Sure.
All right, let's do it.
So, as you may have heard, I'm moving. And
Like 10
10
minutes
minutes
ago.
and so we're not going to be all together in the same place anymore. And the Firebrand podcast has maybe run its course.
I think we can say that it has.
We've been doing a podcast together for 10 years ish. I don't know exactly how many years. And
Feels like an eternity.
so pretty soon we're going to wrap up this podcast. We may have one or two more episodes after this. But fear not. Don't despair. Because we're coming back with a monthly podcast that we are tentatively calling Westworld.
Very tentatively. Very tentatively.
And it's going to be more, it will be a little bit more like the early days of our podcast.
I think we're
Maybe a little bit less serious. Although this episode, it's hard to describe it as serious in any sense. But we'll be talking about all things in the Wesleyan world.
and probably just all things.
That's where the name came from, Westworld.
WES.
Not Westworld.
WORLD.
Yeah, not to be confused with the Michael Crichton book or the HBO series.
We are not HBO.
No.
We're Christians.
Exactly. So Westworld is coming your way, and we'll probably start that up in July. And again, it'll be a once-a-month regular podcast. So we won't be putting out as much content, although the amount we've put out lately,
We're right on
this
track.
will probably be more.
Yeah.
So look for Westworld when it comes out, and you're going to love it. It's going to be so good. It's going to be the best podcast
Ever.
of all the podcasts.
I'm looking forward to it. Definitely. There are a lot of interesting things happening in the Wesleyan world now and just in the world in general. So I think there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Scott will have to use Zoom.
Ugh.
But
maybe the two of you could just use it together so he doesn't have to actually turn it on.
Zoom doesn't tend to work well that way.
Oh, okay.
But
Scott,
anyway.
do you know how to use Zoom?
Well, if someone sends me a link, I can figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Well, so we're looking at doing this once a month podcast. It's a little more conversational, a little more just sort of, I don't know, are we going to have guests on the podcast?
No guests.
No guests.
No
Never?
guests ever.
Why?
It's just us.
I won't even listen then.
I mean, we can if you want. I had thought about it as a no guest podcast, but if you guys want to have guests, we can have guests.
No, I enjoy our conversational dynamic. So I'm fine with it. So anyway, so that's something to look forward to. And today we're talking about Pew Research.
Well, now that we've been talking for,
30
45 minutes.
Nope, there's a new study that has come out from Pew Research, a new article. You just sent it, David.
Yeah, so essentially the idea behind this is that there are indicators that decline of Christianity in the United States and possibly more broadly through the West has
Troughed.
Yeah.
Leveled
Perhaps
out.
it's leveled off. Maybe not. Right? We don't know yet. But
Right. One year is not a trend.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
let's see here let me read just a little bit of this report from Pew. The first RLS field in 2007 found that 78% fielded in 2007 found that 78% of U.S. adults identified as Christians of one sort or another. So 2007, 78% of the U.S. were Christians. That number ticked steadily downward in our smaller surveys each year and was pegged at 71% in the second RLS conducted in 2014. The latest RLS, fielded over 7 months in 2023 to 2024, finds that 62% of U.S. adults identify as Christians. That is a decline of 9 percentage points since 2014 and a 16-point drop since 2007. But for the last 5 years, between 2019 and 2024, the Christian share of the adult population has been relatively stable, hovering between 60% and 64%. The 62% figure in the new religious landscape study is smack in the middle of that recent range. The largest Christian subgroups in the United States are Protestants, now 40% of U.S. adults, and Catholics, now 19%. People who identify with other Christian groups, including the Greek and Russian Orthodox churches, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Jehovah's Witnesses, and many others, total about 3% of U.S. adults.
I don't think we would call those last two groups properly Christian.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Both Protestant and Catholic numbers are down significantly since 2007, though the Protestant share of the population has remained fairly stable or fairly level since 2019, and the Catholic share has been stable since 2014, with only small fluctuations in our annual surveys. So, I think what that means is that we've seen maybe 5 years of relative stability in the numbers, which is a good thing. And I listen to and read very broadly on church trends around the world, and it looks like some of this is also taking place. We're seeing a mild resurgence in parts of Western Europe as well, including England and France. And so, and especially the highest numbers, I think, in England are with the Catholic Church, although we are seeing an uptick in Protestant Christians. And so this is a good sign. And the other interesting thing about this is that it's primarily young people.
Yeah, that I thought was the most interesting thing. So, like, if you look at the statistics of who, like, is identifying as nuns, what's interesting is that the stats are all, like, increasing as you go through generation, like people born in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and it's increasing until you get to 2000, people born in 2000. And then it's a lower number, fewer people. It turns it, and the same is true with people who identify as Christian, right? It's getting lower and lower of the percentage of the population of every age group until you get to the age group that's born in 2000 to whatever it was, and then it ticks up, like, it's not a huge tick up, but it's a small. It's just interesting because it utterly is against what you would expect given where all of the other data points lie.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that strikes me as interesting about these data points is, now this is a guess, but given the percentage of nuns, you have to think that which are primarily, I think at this point, older millennials are the least church generation in this country. So it's millennials, older millennials, Gen X, and then, those are the biggest group of nuns. Those are the parents of the generation that have the greatest increase in those adopting Christianity. And what's interesting is theoretically those children they were not raised in Christian homes. They are being converted.
Yeah. It's almost like...
Go ahead. What's
Jesus
it almost like?
is alive.
I know. It's almost like if you put the gospel at the center of something, it does stuff.
It's almost like human beings were made to worship God. And the neglect of that over the past few generations is now reversing itself because younger people are perceiving the emptiness of the culture that has been left to them.
Yeah. They're perceiving the emptiness of the culture. And also, I have this conversation all the time with people my age and older, which is that our sort of cultural memory and the cultural memory of those people born in 2000 are wildly different.
Yeah, it is.
Like the place where I grew up, and by place, I just mean my sense of this country and the things I felt freedom to do or not do or blah, 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 totally different from my children. And so I think that not only are they sensing emptiness, but they're also just living in a culture where they realize so much is out of their control.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And so they're looking for stability in some place bigger than just what human beings can make. And rightfully so.
Speaking of people your age, Maggie.
Oh.
Isn't it a special day for you today?
Today is my 47th birthday.
You say it's your birthday.
Oh, we don't have to do that.
Happy birthday, Maggie.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
Yeah. What did you get her, Scott?
My undying affection.
Oh, my undying affection. Well, No gifts necessary.
I don't want to talk about what I got her, but it was pretty cool.
I'm sure.
What is it?
I just said I didn't want to talk
Oh,
about
okay.
And no one ever will.
It's a
it.
mystery.
Don't mind me while I order something on my phone.
No. So,
Wow, 47.
yeah.
So that makes you Gen X, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a young Gen Xer.
Yeah. I'm an old Gen Xer.
Yeah, you are.
I'm a middle Gen Xer.
Anyway, speaking of...
Instead of Westworld, we could call it X-World.
No, different connotation there, I think. Different connotation. Back to Jesus. So...
Yeah, so I think this is really encouraging. And I'm giving the convocation address at United on May 17th. And I think this is part of what I want to talk about. But then the question that I want to ask is, like, I think this is what I'm going to talk on. I'm not sure yet. But, okay, so we have these young people who are coming to church. They obviously are sensing a spiritual desire, a kind of, they're perceiving the emptiness, the kind of vapid nature of the culture that has been left to them. They think there must be something more, perhaps these time-honored traditions, perhaps there's something to them. Perhaps we shouldn't just disregard them and kind of do our own thing. And so, okay, they come to church. So what do we offer them at that point, right? Like, when they come to church, what are they getting?
Well, hopefully churches have figured out that offering sort of like, these sort of forays into, well, let's be relevant, let's try for cultural relevancy, that stuff doesn't work. That if the church will lift up the gospel and make the life of the church about the supernatural reality of God, then they will be met, then people coming into the church will be met with something substantive. That's the substantive life of the church. That's the meat and bread of the church, is that Jesus Christ, the gospel, the Trinity, the life of the church, those things. If you don't do that, what are you doing?
Yeah, and I think in some churches, what the danger is that they will get no substantive message. They'll get a kind of a be nice message, and then in other church, what they'll get is some form of politics with Christian window dressing, and neither of those is going to be sufficient for what they're looking for, right? Because if what they want is self-help, or if what they want is politics, they don't need to give up their Sunday morning to do that. They don't have to devote their lives to Christ to do that. And it's like I've heard Matt say before, the young people he encounters today, they want something that they can give their lives to.
Yeah, that's true.
And so if the churches don't offer them that, then we will have missed an amazing opportunity to raise up a new generation of believers who can pass that faith on to subsequent generations.
What are you thinking, Scott?
I'm just I was just looking at some of the stats here, and the people who attend religious services at least monthly, which doesn't seem to be terribly excessive, but again, the 18 to 24-year-olds are increasing over the last 2 years in the percentage, going from 21% to 27%, which is significant.
That is a huge jump.
Yeah, that's a lot, So, and they now go to church more often than people born in the 90s. So, they basically also ticked up slightly to 24%, but again, 24% is less than 27%. So more kids, young people, youths, young adults, what is the word these days?
Emerging adults.
Whatever. 18 to 24-year-olds are more likely to go to church once a month than people from 24 to 34.
Well, 24 to 34 would be, 34, that 30 to 34 range would be young millennials. And so millennials in general are the least likely to go to church. But that's interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is related, but it's in the back of my mind, and maybe just because I was listening to it earlier, but I was listening to, did you ever listen to Barry Weiss's podcast?
Yeah, honestly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I do. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, so I was listening to an episode that someone sent me called Can America Survive Without Christianity?
Yeah. I listened to a good chunk of that.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting because the guy who wrote the book, his name is Jonathan Rauch.
Yeah.
And he's I think maybe, is he culturally Jewish? He's an atheist.
I think he's a gay secular Jew.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So obviously a lot of sort of differences in terms of worldview. Yeah. But his argument is that Christianity is sort of like a ballast or a load-bearing wall in the culture of Christianity in terms of morals and philosophical concepts, things like that. So as I was listening to this, there are things that he says off and on that I'm like, well, this isn't quite what that means, or they're just little things here and there. But I thought it was an interesting thing he was pointing out. It's a blind spot that I think that evangelical Christians have, which is this relationship between politics and Christianity. And to one thing you were saying earlier, David, which is young people, they don't want to, in general, Christianity needs to be Christianity. It should not be adulterated with politics. Does Christianity have political implications? Sure. But these are not the same things.
Because it has morality.
Right, exactly.
It has a particular morality.
And I think that is this guy's point, the book he was writing. But the other thing I was thinking about as I was listening to him is I started to wonder, is there going to be a rise of secular Christianity? People who see the social benefits of the Christian faith.
Like Richard Dawkins, for example, has called himself a cultural Christian now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. This all started
Well, it's basically because people are terrified of Islam. A lot of that.
You think so?
I think in the UK it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is people are, if secularists could maintain some sort of order, and then basically live how they want, they would be happy with that. But they realize that that's not a possibility.
To my recollection, anecdotally, the person that really got this conversation rolling in a big way was Jordan Peterson, mm-hmm. who, I don't know if he's a Christian now. I hear conflicting reports on this, but he wasn't a Christian when he first started, but he started talking about the Bible mm-hmm. and doing these kind of Jungian analyses,
right? The archetypes,
these archetypes that the Bible provides, and the ways that they show us how to live. I guess he kind of looked at them as wisdom stories in mm-hmm. a way, and he was getting all of these views on YouTube, just like hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of views on these videos, and I thought, well, that's interesting. But then more and more people started to sort of talk in this way that there is something about Christianity that's good for mm-hmm. society. And we hadn't heard that for a while from anyone except Christians.
Yeah.
And then you had Ayan Hirsi Ali, who converted to Christianity. She is a former Muslim, and then she became, I guess, an atheist. And then she became a Christian. And why did she become a Christian? And by her own explanation, in large part at least, it was because she saw it as a bulwark against both the destructive forces of Islam and secularism. And so then people like Richard Dawkins, mm-hmm. I was astounded when I heard him call himself a cultural Christian. Even Joe Rogan says these kinds of things sometimes. And there was someone else, it was Jonathan Rauch. And my point with these folks, I wrote a Substack on this a long time ago. But my point of these folks is maybe the fact that it's good should indicate to you that it also might be true.
True. Yes.
And perhaps you should take more seriously if you can't just say, I'm really glad you people are Christians. You guys over here, you go be the Christians and you go be the moral ballast while I stay over here kind of in my detached agnosticism or atheism. I don't think that works long term.
Yeah.
So I think that these people who are saying that Christianity is good need to follow the path of Ayan Hirsi Ali and say, yeah, I'm going to become a Christian.
Yeah.
Because I see that it's good, and if it's good, that's at least an indicator that it may also be true.
And if you are an atheist who is saying that Christianity is culturally good, almost by definition, you're saying that atheism is not
good.
Culturally good.
Yeah.
Which it is not.
No.
No, it is. It historically hasn't led to.
This is honestly one of the things I thought was really interesting about the conversation between Barry Weiss and Jonathan Rauch, because he's, at certain points, he just demurs and says, well, obviously I think differently about XYZ. So he demurs his atheism at certain points. But here's the thing that I just kept smacking me in the face when I was listening to this, and is that, just as you're saying, if it's good, it might also be true. And this is why I think churches who put anything but the gospel at the center of their what they're doing are just completely missing the boat.
Well, this was sort of the product of the sort of 20th century liberalism.
Yeah.
Which was to say, I mean, you could go all the way back to Ritschl on this. Christianity is good even if its specific claims aren't true, right? That Christianity is essentially an ethical program.
Well, Kant said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for me, that, I mean, the question is, how do you determine what's good in that case? If you don't have some, I mean, Kant had a metaphysics, right?
Right, but it
so did
couldn't be
Ritschl,
knowable. Nothing was knowable.
Right. So I think, I just don't think that works long term. I mean, I'm glad to see that these secular people are seeing the goodness of Christianity. I'm appreciative of that because I agree with them. Christianity is definitely good for any society in which it takes root. But at the same time, they need to take more seriously not just sort of the effects of the ethical claims of Christianity on the broader culture. I mean, Tom Holland is another one like this, that, you know, he wrote Dominion, in which he's saying that essentially all of the values of the West are derived from Christianity. All these good things, like even atheists who stump for social justice or something like that, they are
Positing a moral absolute.
Right.
that is derived from Christianity. And Tom Holland himself became a Christian. I mean, I think is an Anglican, and he also had a couple of mystical experiences that drew him in that direction. And to listen to him talk about these things is very interesting. I mean, he's a brilliant guy. He's just an absolutely brilliant mind. But he's another one who has he's probably written the most extensively on the goodness of Christianity. I think younger people perceive that, and I think influencers like Jordan Peterson have helped in that regard. They've kind of steered them in the right direction. But they also intuitively sense that there is more than just, that this is more than just an ethical program that provides a social good.
Yeah. I feel like maybe not several years ago, but at least a couple of years ago, we were having a conversation on a podcast, and we were talking about what the sort of those who were sort of debating the credibility of Christianity, what questions they were asking. It used to be that the question was, the question people asked about Christianity was, is it true? And then it changed to, is it good? But in a sense, it always, truth, beauty, goodness, they always come back down to the same thing, which is ultimately all of these things point to truth when it comes to Christianity anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have talked long enough, and Scott is now late for a meeting. And True that. But friends, this has been our slightly truncated conversation and episode for today, but there is more to come. And thank you so much for listening, and check us out on social media at Firebrand Mag on the Twitters or the X.com. I still call it Twitter like an old lady.
Me too.
Yeah. And we'll come back to you in the next conversation.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.